Hey guys, welcome to my channel and thank you for joining me today. My name is LaHue. We are looking at 10 things we got to get right in life in order to have a great life, or 10 things that just need to be paid attention to and we need to prioritize. This comes from my book, Great Life, and from my course, Great Life, 10 things we need to get right. And so if you are interested in this topic, you want to have the best life you can, and you need some encouragement along the way, check out the course, Great Life, on demand on my website, tomlahue.com. And we're going to talk today about inner peace. We're going to talk about having inner peace in our lives and why this needs to be prioritized and needs to be important to us. I mean, think about it like this. What do we gain if everything in our life is going great, but internally we're just filled with frustrations and angst and fears and anxieties? And so inner peace has to be a priority for us. It needs to be something that we value. Think about the ocean. On the surface, the water could be calm one day, there could be hurricanes and storms the next, but when you dive deep down below the surface, there's this stillness and this calmness. And that's what we need to have internally. No matter what's going on in our external world, to be able to be still and calm on the inside. If you take your pulse right now, what's going on internally? How are you doing? Are you feeling calm and steady and able to face the challenges in front of you? Or are you feeling anxious and panicked and worried or angry and disconnected and incongruent with yourself? Well, this is all to help you. This is all to encourage you. And so I want to talk today about some reasons why we may find inner peace such a difficulty in attaining. And I got a list here of some information. I want to share it with you. Okay, so this pursuit for inner peace could be perceived as being complex and elusive for some people. And the reasons why we might struggle with attaining inner peace could be multifaceted and varied. And so I'm just going to go down a list here of some of the things that come up in my mind as to why it might be difficult to ever feel like we have that calm, secure, steady assurance within us. Number one is maybe our focus of our attention is too focused externally. So we have a strong external focus. And the idea of this is that for many of us, happiness and self-worth, those things, we might tie those to external factors. Like if I just get the job that I want, if I just had the right position, if I had the right relationship, and if I attain that, if I could become that superstar guitar player, if I could be that phenomenal sensation, or if my America's Got Talent video would go viral, if I had those certain possessions and those certain achievements, and I had the right opinions of others, well, then I could then be happy, then I could be fully realized. And so there's this never-ending chase because I've tied my internal peace or my internal contentment or my internal happiness to some external fact out there. And as long as I can't control the external world, which we can't, then my peace has been forfeited because it's always going to be elusive. So number one is it's tied to an external focus. Number two, the second reason why we may find inner peace to be elusive is because of unresolved emotional issues. So I'm just going to number this one here. Unresolved emotional issues. So think about all the traumas that happen in life, and all of us are going to go through traumas. All of us are going to go through horrific circumstances at times in our life. Some of it, we can't control. It just happens to us. We live in this world and there's going to be problems. There's going to be difficulties and health problems and financial problems, relationship problems. There are abusers and oppressors out there in our world, that were predators that we're going to interact with. And these traumas and unresolved conflicts and sometimes suppressed emotions, like we don't want to deal with it, we want to process it. Think of it as like the opposite of processing through it. Talking about it with somebody, dealing with it, is suppressing it and shoving it down and not wanting to deal with it, hoping it'll just go away on its own. Sometimes it doesn't. And so these emotions can create a turbulent inner world. And without addressing these issues and without dealing with them, it's going to be difficult for us to really achieve any kind of inner peace long term. We might have some calm on the surface because we're not facing the challenges or the problems. We're denying them. We're not being honest about them. But underneath, there's going to be difficulties, challenges, maybe even bitterness and envy and resentment and frustration and all these things that just make life miserable. So we got to deal with the stuff that happens to us in life. Maybe you need somebody in your life, a therapist, a coach, a counselor, a pastor, somebody that, just a friend, somebody that will listen to your story, validate your story, and be there to give you the support and encouragement that you need. And sometimes you just need somebody to listen. You don't always need people to fix the problems. You just need people to be there with you in the crisis. So number one, external focus. We've tied our inner peace to achieving or attaining something outside of ourselves. Number two, unresolved emotional issues. Number three, lack of self-acceptance. Lack of self-acceptance. Do you love yourself? I hope you do. I realize none of us are perfect. We've all got work to do. None of us, are a complete package. We've all got some issues in our life. But I hope that you accept yourself, forgive yourself, love yourself. So lack of self-acceptance. Struggling with self-acceptance and constant self-criticism can create a state of internal discord. Now, all of us, if we were to look at our life and examine ourselves, we're all going to find things that maybe we don't love about ourselves. Maybe it's the way we look. Maybe it's the family we came from. Maybe it's our strengths or abilities. But there's always going to be areas where we could improve. But as long as I focus on how frustrated I am with myself, it's going to be hard for me to really see the positive and to really live in those strengths or in those positives. So I've got to learn to love and be kind and compassionate with myself, be patient with myself and others. And it's going to lead to a greater level of inner peace. Accepting oneself with all your flaws and all your shortcomings and saying, I'm not perfect, but I don't have to be perfect. I haven't got everything right, but there's a lot of good. There's a lot to be happy about. Accepting oneself is a critical step toward moving toward inner peace in your life. And so I would encourage you to try to focus on the positives in your life rather than always just seeing areas to improve or things that you don't like about yourself. Okay, number three. That was number three. Let's look at number four. Number four is overwhelming stress and anxiety. Overwhelming stress and anxiety. It's hard to be at peace internally when everything in your life is in a constant state of change and conflict and difficulty and lots of things to do that have to be done. Lots of overwhelming stress and anxiety. So the pressures, just think the pressures of daily life, all of the commitments, all the things you have to get done, all of the challenging work that's getting piled up on your desk. Maybe you've got some people in your life that are challenging to be around. You've got projects that are multifaceted and multi-layered and that kind of stuff. So much of that surrounding us, it starts to pile up. And if we're not good at saying no and we're not good at delegating, it isn't long before we're going to feel overwhelmed just because of the amount of stuff that has to be done. So work commitments, financial stress. Finances are a big problem. Whatever the economy is, whether it's doing well or not doing well, financial problems are one of the big relationship issues in married couples, just having problems with their finances. And that's another thing, is just relationship challenges. The stress of trying to get along with people that you love, people that you care about, but not always easy to get along with. These chronic stresses and chronic anxieties can hinder your ability to feel a sense of peace and calm in life. So number one, tying your inner peace to accomplishing something outside of yourself or to the attainment of something outside of yourself. Number two, unresolved emotional issues. Number three, a lack of self-acceptance. And number four, overwhelming stress and anxiety. And there's a lot to be panicked about. There's a lot to be nervous about. There's a lot to feel overwhelmed by in life. Number five, A lack of mindfulness and presence in life. You know, a lot has been written about mindfulness now, and I love it. I love reading it. I love thinking about it. I love challenging myself to be more present in the moment because I can be so much in the future, and maybe you can too. You can live so much in the future of possibilities or even projecting problems in the future. And so many of us are future oriented and others of us are very past oriented, looking backward. Why did they say that to me? How would my life have been different? Had things been different growing up? And so we can get so stuck in the past or in the future that we're not really engaged in the present. And so we have to bring some attention to this. We have to challenge ourselves at times to come back to the present moment. And maybe that's through breathing exercises. It can probably take a lot of different forms, but just that realization that, am I really here right now? Am I really here engaged in what I'm doing? Am I really here in this moment, relating to the people around me and enjoying and living the moment? Because this is where real happiness happens. It happens in the here and now. But we can get so focused on future and past that we're not able to be mindful and present fully in our daily life. And so these worries about the future or these frustrations or regrets about the past, they can just pull us away from being at peace and living in the present moment. So lack of mindfulness and a lack of presence. Number 6, misalignment with our values. Misalignment with our values. And what I mean by this is, if you're living in a situation right now that doesn't really connect with who you are, like you're being forced into a box that doesn't really fit you, it's going to be very hard for you to have any inner peace about this. Let me just give you an example, okay? What if you found out right now that your husband has been making a lot of extra money because he's been counterfeiting money in the basement? And so this sudden realization, you've been living this great life for the last 6 months, and he told you that he had all these great business deals, but now you've realized the truth, that your husband is a crook, a criminal. He's been down in the basement counterfeiting $100 bills, and now you have to decide how you're going to respond to this truth. Now, you being the good person that you are, you can't tolerate and accept that I've been living, inadvertently, I've been living a life of crime because my husband is a counterfeiter. So what are you going to do now? You feel this weight of this stress on you, worried that the government officials are going to find out, you're going to get caught, your husband's going to be in prison, and you might end up in prison too, being an accomplice to the crime. And so you're very unsettled because you're living in an environment, you're living in a situation that does not align with your values. And this position that you find yourself in is going to create a deep problem for your inner peace. You're going to find yourself anxious, worried, frustrated, blaming others, and fearful. It's going to be very hard for you to get a good night's rest in this kind of environment. So you're going to have to change your environment. You're going to have to stand up and advocate for yourself and advocate for what you want to see changed. Or you're never going to have this inner peace that we're talking about. So living a life that is out of sync with your core values and your quote-unquote authentic self can lead to a persistent feeling of discontentment and restlessness in your life. And you might be able to, fake it for a couple of days. You might be able to pretend that everything's okay for a couple of days, but continued existence in this kind of state is going to really disrupt your inner peace. And so what do you need to do right now to be able to move toward your authentic self, to change your environment to match what's true about you? It could even just be like the way you decorate your house. Maybe you decided that you were going to, go on a kick and decorate your house, and you realize, like, this is not me. This does not look like me. I'm not comfortable in this. This feng shui of this room is not, giving me inner peace. It's causing me stress. The way these books are piled up, the way these this chaos is, these blankets everywhere. I can't take it anymore. I got to clean up my environment because it doesn't match who I am as a person. All right, number 7. You're going to love this one, all right, guys? Some of you guys really need to hear this, and that is chasing perfection or being perfectionistic. I got a whole course on demand on giving up on being perfect, overcoming perfectionism. And that is just this general sense that sometimes good enough is good enough and that being perfect is unattainable. And I'm just going to get frustrated. I'm just going to be irritated with myself and everybody else because I'm chasing after an elusive goal that I can never accomplish. Much like the first one we mentioned, an external focus, perfectionism. So let me read what I wrote here. The pursuit of perfection and the fear of failure, so think 1s, 3s, Enneagram types, right? And the fear of failure or imperfection can lead to a constant dissatisfaction. And think about it, that's not a perfect way to live, constantly dissatisfied. Who wants to be around that? And I get it. I struggle with dissatisfaction as a 7. Probably 4s do, and definitely 1s do, being dissatisfied. 8's probably dissatisfied, and other people. But that is not a perfect way to live. That's not a perfect environment to raise your family in, where you're constantly frustrated and dissatisfied. And true perfection is kind of an unattainable goal. So as long as that is our goal, you can see where your inner peace is going to be disrupted. When you can learn to accept, see, this is where the peace comes from. When we can learn to accept more the way things are, there are things that we can change. Let me just say it this way. If there are things in your life that need to be changed and you can change them, by all means, please change them. But there is often much of life that really we can't change. And so when we face those situations, it's us that has to change. We have to change, and change, part of that change is we have to learn to accept the things in life we can't change. And this acceptance is what brings peace in our life. And knowing the difference is really maturity. Knowing when this is a moment I need to take action, this is a moment when I need to just move with life. And this is all necessary in order for us to really have peace in life. Okay, number 8, a lack of spiritual connection. A lack of spiritual connection. How do you respond when you hear phrases like this? Do you think, oh, I'm going to check out. Here the guy's going to talk about spiritual stuff. This doesn't relate to me. There are people out there that find some kind of benefit from spiritual things, but I'm not one that needs that. I just believe in science. Well, spiritual stuff and science do not have to be enemies of one another. Let's just say it this way. I think every one of us has a spirit. You are a spiritual being. You have a soul, a mind, a will, and emotions. Let's just say that. There is some kind of software system that makes you who you are. Yes, you have an external hardware system. I can see your body. I can see your physical, you take up physical space. But there's some kind of spiritual or unquantifiable aspect that makes you who you are. And part of that is your personality. You know, a lot of times people don't want to talk about spiritual stuff, but they will talk about personality types. And as soon as we start talking about personalities, we're moving into the world of the spiritual because we're going beneath the surface to what makes you you. What is it that makes you tick? And you are part of something bigger than yourself. You're part of something greater than yourself. And I would say as a Christian that you have a creator, and a creator that wants to connect with you and offers peace to you. And as long as there's this disconnect between you and anything spiritual, there's going to be this unrest and unresolved tension in your life. My opinion, okay? All right, but lack of spiritual connection. And let's just say it like this. If you boil it down to the most basic thing, who are you? Why are you here? How did you get here? Where are you going? What does it all mean? Just think about, those are spiritual questions. Who are you? Why are you here? What are you supposed to be doing here? Where are you going when all this is over? What's the purpose and meaning behind any of this? This is all philosophical and it's all spiritual. And I think if you don't answer those questions, or you don't come to any resolve for answers to those questions, there's going to be some level of unrest that exists in you. Okay, number 9, physical health issues. This is a big one. When you're physically not doing well, chaos. Okay, my wife and I have raised 5 kids, and they have not always, had perfect health. They've had some challenging health issues, and it's terrifying. It's terrifying. There's great unrest. There's anxiety when people aren't doing well, when there are issues, when there, are challenges to our physical health. Let me just ask it like this. How would you feel right now if you had a doctor's report and they said to you, oh, Mrs. Jones, I don't like what I'm seeing here. We're going to have to do some labs. We're going to have to do some biopsies. Have a great weekend. I'll see you in 2 weeks. What does that create in you? It's going to create a sense of anxiety, worry, panic, not knowing what's going to happen next, not knowing what is on my chart, what did the test reveal, what does it mean going forward, what is my quality of life going to be. All of these things are going to disrupt your inner peace, or could disrupt your inner peace, certainly has the potential to disrupt your inner peace. So a lack of or physical health issues. Okay, number 10, social and environmental factors. So let's just say if you're living in an environment where everything is chaos, you're working in an environment where people are at each other's throats, where the expectations aren't clear, where people are always arguing, nobody's making space for one another, people are rude, insensitive, jerks. If you're living in a home like this and there's clutter, maybe you live with a hoarder, or you live with a minimalist, or whatever it is, and it's just this environment around me is not healthy. The environment around me, for whatever reasons, is toxic. And sometimes you're not even aware of this. Sometimes an outsider has to show you this because your environment becomes normal to you. And you might think you're going crazy, and you ask somebody and they're like, what? No, that is not acceptable. And sometimes you need a third person perspective. You need an outsider to evaluate you and your situation to say, no, why is this normal for you? This is not normal. The way your husband's talking to you, that's not acceptable. The way your kids are behaving, that needs to be addressed. And again, sometimes you just become a product of your environment and you don't see it anymore. It becomes the forest you live in, and you don't even realize you're surrounded by a forest anymore until you get out of this environment. You go visit the desert and you're like, where are all the trees? Because it just becomes normal to you. And sometimes it takes somebody outside of you, like me or a book or a movie or a friend, to just kind of shake you a little bit and say, why is this okay? What universe do you live in? Because this would never be okay in my universe. I could never talk to my wife like that. It'd be okay. Why is that okay in your universe? So your social environmental factors, living in a chaotic, unhealthy environment. Guys, look, I've been in ministry and in people work for over 30 years, and there's a lot of homes that are just chaotic and unhealthy. Bottom line. And it comes from a lot of different reasons, but we all need help, okay? So chaotic and unhealthy environments are lacking a supportive community. Hard to cultivate inner peace when you're surrounded by chaos, right? It's hard. It's possible. That's the goal, is to be at inner peace no matter what's going on around you. But it's a lot easier with the training wheels on to create inner peace in your life when you're surrounded by a peaceful environment. And right now, maybe, you're so far down the road of stress and anxiety, you're just going to have to change your environment. There's no way you're going to be able to get to a peaceful state in the chaos that surrounds you. You're going to have to just back out and say, I need 2 days. I need 2 weeks. I just need to go. I got to position myself geographically where there is peace. And I just, like a solar panel, I need to absorb peace externally, so that I can recharge my inner peace battery. Because I'm on zero. I got nothing left. I'm anxious. I'm frustrated. I'm irritated. All I see is the negative. My mood is way down, declined, and I need help. Man, realizing this is huge. So all of these things. And the last one on my list, a bonus one, number 11, is unrealistic expectations. My life should be perfect. I shouldn't have any problems. My life should be free of challenges. And then you're upset and angry and aggravated when it's not. And it's not going to be. It's not going to be, everyday sunshine, everyday happiness, everyday, lollipops. It's just not realistic. There's going to be challenges, there's going to be hardships, there's going to be problems, and you can handle it. You can handle it when you have a core that is at peace, that is aligned, that is congruent, that is stable and steady, and has some depth and direction and integrity about it. So, one of the things that we have to have in our life in order to have a great life is we have to value and prioritize inner peace. What do you need to do today? What do you need to do today to move toward inner peace? That's something for you to think about, something for you to consider, and something for you to make a priority in your life. Thank you, guys.